Ted Bundy was an infamous American serial killer who murdered at least 30 women, but the true number is unknown and could have been upwards of 100. Bundy's biological father was unknown, and he was seen as a disgrace by his heavily religious grandparents. He was raised as the adopted son of his grandparents, and his mother was treated as his sister. Eventually, his mother would marry, but Bundy had no respect for his stepfather, as he saw him as too working class. He was apparently a very intelligent but shy child who had a fascination with knives since he was 3 years old. In his teenage years, he developed the bad habits of staring into people's windows and stealing things without remorse. He fell in love with a wealthy girl from California, but the breakup left him distraught. He often picked victims that closely resembled his first love.
I'm the most cold-hearted son of a bitch you will ever meet.
Bundy had become much more socially and politically confident, getting a degree in psychology from the University of Washington and working on the governor of Washington's campaign. Also, at this time, women began disappearing around the Seattle area.
What's one less person on the face of the earth anyways?
It is suspected that Bundy began killing around 1974, where he would often rape his victims and then beat them to death. He would often lure women to his car by pretending to be injured. The bodies were disposed of in many different ways, including dumped in forests and mountains, buried, or thrown in a river. Many of the bodies have still not been discovered. When Bundy moved to Utah, women started disappearing there too, so when the police found him in a car with suspicious tools such as a face mask and handcuffs, they began to link him to the disappearances. Bundy was finally caught when one of his victims, Cal DeRonch, escaped him and picked him out of a lineup. He was charged with kidnapping and sentenced to 1 to 15 years. At a different trial, Bundy decided to defend himself and used this as an opportunity to jump through the courtroom window and escape. He was missing for 8 days. Then, once again, he managed to dig a hole in his ceiling and starved himself to be able to fit through. The guards didn't realise for 15 hours, giving him a massive head start. Bundy then broke into Chi Omega sorority house and attacked 4 women. 2 of them died. Then he murdered a 12-year-old girl called Kimberly Leach.
I don't feel guilty for anything. I feel sorry for people who feel guilt.
2 months after he escaped, he was caught due to his stolen vehicle being recognised. He confessed to 30 of his killings, 12 of which he decapitated. He spent 9 years on death row, trying to defend himself before being executed by the electric chair on the 24th of January 1989 in Florida State Prison. Crowds outside cheered and set off fireworks.
We serial killers are your sons, we are your husbands, we are everything. And there will be more of your children dead tomorrow.
Ted Bundy's influence lived on long after his death. Characters like Patrick Bateman from American Psycho, Hannibal Lecter, and Buffalo Bill from Silence of the Lambs all have elements taken from Bundy's life. He has also had multiple movies made about him, including 2002's Ted Bundy and 2008's Bundy, A Legacy of Evil. In pop culture, Ted Bundy has become the archetypal American serial killer. During his time on death row, Ted Bundy might have made one positive impact on the world, helping to catch a fellow serial killer known as the Green River Killer, Gary Ridgway, who had been attributed to the disappearance of over 40 women. He would dump the bodies of the women he kidnapped and raped into a river, where they would often be discovered downstream. Ted Bundy assisted 2 investigators, one of which would go on to write a book called Riverman, Ted Bundy and I Hunt for the Green River Killer. Bundy provided useful insight into the mind of a serial killer and possible ways they may be able to catch the Green River Killer. It was very likely that Ted Bundy acted out of jealousy of the attention Gary Ridgway was getting from the media, and the investigators would note that both killers had a complete lack of remorse for their horrific crimes. Thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe and like the video if you enjoyed it.